Dear viewers, thank you for joining us. You're watching our weekly program, Talk to Obn on Obn Horn of Africa. Today I brought you Dr. Said Osman from Maryland virtually. We are going to talk about his profile, his career development, his accomplishment. Doctor, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
To begin with, who is Dr. Said Osman, basically?
I was born and raised in Moyale. My family come from Burji, Worada in Ethiopia. They settled in Moyale across the border. So the family lived on both sides, but I grew up on Kenya side. And I went to school on Kenya side and basically continued progress from there.
Okay, you're a medical orthopedic spine surgeon, and can you tell us, I mean, your educational background from early age up until this time, though?
Well, my community is a farming community. You know, Burjis are farmers in Moyale. At the age of about 6 years of age, I saw a Borana girl who was brought from Moyale, Ethiopia, to the only hospital in Moyale, which is on Kenya side. And she was literally dying, hardly breathing. And I thought, you know, she was dead. But 4 weeks later, she was very strong, funny, intelligent, and lively. And I just couldn't believe it is the same person I saw 4 weeks ago. So that's when I decided, I think I want to be a doctor. I went on, continued schooling, but at the age of about 9, a relative from Nairobi came and visited us in Moyale. He left me when I was about 3 years of age, and he asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I wanted to be a doctor. But they had never seen a black doctor in Moyale at that time, so everybody was laughed at the whole idea. So I asked my mom, why were they laughing at me? He said, well, because they never saw a black doctor. I said, okay, I will show them one. So at the age of 9, that was basically the focus. Those days in Moyale, at the age of, when you reach the 8th grade, that is the highest level of education you go to. But I kept on going until I went to medical school in Nairobi. At the end, you know, by the time I went to the University of Nairobi and started learning about the diseases, what has always been at the top of my focus is what can you do with back pain? Because most of my community members, the farmers, were suffering from back pain, and there was really no good solutions. And there were only 2 neurosurgeons at the University of Nairobi, Kenyatta National Hospital. So anyway, I decided to go to Britain to do my postgraduate training as an orthopedic surgeon. And that's where then I learned, among other things, about arthroscopic surgery of the knee, where you use, you know, tiny little incisions to take a cartilage from inside the knee. So one day I will be working with the surgeon who is doing this. Another day I'm working with the spine surgeon who's doing a big operation, cutting muscles, bone, and all that kind of trauma. And I had promised my father that, you know, once I finish my training, I'll come back to Ethiopia. But then I said, what can I do with that kind of surgery? Who will afford to do it in Moyale, you know, or for that matter anywhere else, because of the cost and the complications with it. So I started thinking about, well, how can you transfer this technology to the spine from the knee, you know, the arthroscopy technology. Well, anyway, after finishing my residency in Norwich, England, I went to Edinburgh to specialize in spine. And that's really where I was now doing. Everything that I was doing was spine. And this trauma became very, 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 concerning to me, and say, what can I do with this in Ethiopia or Kenya? And then 3 girls came from Saudi Arabia to correct the deformities of their spine. These are Muslim girls. They are traumatized just because of being in a different country where people spoke different languages. The culture is very different. The trauma they were going through psychologically and then physically was the last thing that really broke the camel's back, so to speak. And I said, I have to find a way of transferring this endoscopic technology to the spine. Britain didn't give me any offer, any opportunity, and that's really what brought me then to United States as a spine fellow. And luckily, I had a professor who was very supportive of my ideas. And within 3 years, I had developed 3 new technologies. And the first one is actually the chest part of the spine. This was a doctor who came all the way from Hawaii to have this operation. So instead of opening his chest with an 8-inch incision and collapsing the blood, the lung and what have you, I just made a tiny little incision with less than half an inch incision to take away the disease. And he was back to his hotel 3 hours later instead of going to intensive care. That was in 1995. So just continued developing to this point where now internationally people have adopted the technology and everybody is now being experts in it. Now my journey is, okay, how do I give it back to Ethiopia? Because that is really what has never left my mind, because my body is here in America.
Okay, that's my question too.
Yes.
During your early age, those poor facilities and poor health care system in those places, specifically in your birthplace, inspires you to be a doctor. But though you are inspired by that poor health care system in Moyale or wherever there, you ended up working for the US. And of course, you've mentioned this orthopedic spine surgeon is not quite common in your birthplace. Is that compromisable to say what you were specialized with not fit with where you started your education journey, though? You understand?
I think I understand what you're saying. What was basically a major concern was lack of treatment of spine problem, back pain. I remember at the age of about 6, my dad will come home and lay down flat on his face, and then I walk on his back to relieve his pain. And that was basically, what's called Wegesha. Basically, that's how people treated it.
Yeah.
So back pain, whether you are in rural Africa or in America or wherever it is everywhere. How do you treat them? How do you fix them so that young people who get these problems can go back and continue being productive? That is really why I then said, okay, fine, I cannot go back to Ethiopia or anywhere in Africa and rely on this big operation to fix the problem. And that's really what brought me over here, so that I can develop the technology and then be able to deliver it back home. And it took me 30 years to get there. Let me tell you, coming from rural Africa to a place like United States and telling people, oh, there are better ways of doing these operations is not a very easy thing.
Sure.
It's not a very easy thing. Sure. Changing people have difficulty changing what they do. Okay, so when I came with this idea of doing this operation through millimeter incision instead of a big operation of the chest. People were even laughing at me. These are surgeons, professors. Nobody believed it until that doctor whom I operated on 4 days later came out dressed in a suit and giving a TV interview in his hotel. That is how people from all over the world, including South Korea, picked it up and developed the technology. So its question is, can I go back and give it to Ethiopia myself? Or can I share with the world so that an Ethiopian doctor can go anywhere and learn this thing and give it back home?
Okay. You've been here in Ethiopia last February, and you've paid a visit to Ministry of Health, and you provided training for health professionals. I mean, how was your engagement, though, with them?
Well, it's wonderful. It was a great privilege and honor to sit down with Dr. Leah Tadesse, the Minister of Health, who's probably the busiest Minister of Health in the world today. She was very, very dedicated, very humble, and very focused on pushing the technology forward for Ethiopia. And Ethiopia should be very, very be proud of her. And she's the one who actually helped, in spite of what the country is going through, helped get these cutting-edge technologies for minimal surgery on the spine, and that is how the Alert Hospital was able to achieve it. And we were able to go there and do operation on patients, and also train about 20 young surgeons who are very, very bright and very, very keen to learn the new technologies.
How do you rate the healthcare system in Ethiopia specifically, and Africa and beyond?
Well, it's very easy to, first of all, I mean, I don't practice in Ethiopia, therefore I cannot give full information about what diseases are out there, and what are the priorities in terms of what you treat. But my area is spine surgery, and like I said, most of the people whom I know have chronic back problems. And then I also looked at the statistics about Ethiopia. About 61 million of Ethiopians are working age group. People in the working age group. 46%, that is about 29 million of them, have got chronic back pain. That means they lack about or lose about 70% of their ability to be productive. So it's not just the individual who is suffering, their families are now missing bread earner for the family, and the country, who has got that number of people who are chronically affected and cannot function fully, is losing economically. And that picture goes right across Africa. As a specialist in spine surgery, that's what I can say. Focus has really got to be given to what we just started doing there, to be able to kind of do surgery, or even avoid surgery and do least invasive and non-operative measures in order to allow people to fix their problems and go back to normal productions. Yeah.
What are the causing factors for spine problem? Because most adults these days are suffering from this spine problem.
Well, I mean, if you take countries like Ethiopia, and of course, most of Africa, people do very physical work. Like my community, farmers, builders, people who are physically involved in developmental kind of technologies, infrastructures, and all that kind of stuff. These are very physical. And the back, the spine is really the backbone of the body, so to speak. Everything relies on it. If you bend down and pick something heavy, you can rupture a disc. And that is basically how it all starts, wear and tear sets in, and you keep on repeating this kind of activities, and then before you know it, you now have a chronic back pain that prevents you from functioning. Recently, I was watching a YouTube video of people in southern Ethiopia, where they are using these machines harvesting wheat and then putting it in sacks and then carrying these sacks on their backs to put it on the track. And I ask myself, how many of those can you do in a day? And for how long can you do that kind of stuff? And that's basically one of the major problems that is causing problem in young people. Ethiopia's population is about 70% less than 30 years of age. And if you are chronically affected with back pain at that age, what is the value of your life? What can you do with your life? And that is why I keep on telling people, the worst enemy of any country is not a hostile neighbor who's pointing guns at you across the border or threatening to lob nuclear weapons at you. It is disease. It is inside you before even you know it. And so being able to kind of anticipate, what can we do to prevent the disease from hitting you? And once it hits you, what is the least disruptive way of fixing it so that you can go back to productive life? And that has been my journey. Like I said, my heart has never left Moyale, although my body is in America.
Now you're meditating and proposing to come to Ethiopia again. And can you tell me about your initiative and your plan to work with Ministry of Health or any other health sector in providing training and providing maybe equipments, whatever?
Well, at this point, it's it is a least invasive way, but in terms of training and getting the ability to do it comfortably, it is something that needs more than just a visit to go and do the cases. But it's very important to be able to introduce, and I was probably the happiest time in my life as a doctor was being with those young doctors and actually showing them how I do this thing. Their excitement, their enthusiasm was uplifting. I just felt I was alive for the first time in a very long time. I was doing something meaningful. But the technology is expensive. Ethiopia, all my life, has been going through one problem or another, and therefore has not really been able to maximize its ability to invest in technologies and what have you. But these are things that can improve as time goes by. My focus now is really trying to get investors to take interest in developing a center of excellence in Addis Ababa, a center of excellence in spine care, not just to operate. What can we do to train people not to get injured, to protect themselves when they are doing their work? Number one. If they get injured, what can we do with least disruptive way to fix their problem without surgery? And if we have to go do surgery, what is the least invasive way of doing it so that they can go back to normal activities? I spent 30 years of my life trying to set up a setup of a protocol from A to Z, not just as a surgeon, but all the specialties who are involved in spine care so that they can work together as a team and be able to kind of give the best treatment to the patient in the shortest time so that they can go back to productive life. That way you are cutting down the cost and loss of productivity of the patient. So anybody who's interested, who's investing in Ethiopia today, whether it is in farming, infrastructure, or whatever it is, really has got to look at where they are putting their money. If you are relying on the working uh, people in Ethiopia, the young people, to produce and get benefit from your investment, then you've got to look after their health, make sure that they are able to function and produce. Because if 46% of them lose 70% of their productive ability, then your investment is not giving you back what you want. So whether you are investing it from Europe, from Middle East, from wherever, I think investing in Ethiopia's health, and not only Ethiopia, and Africa and everywhere else, will be beneficial for everyone. And that is really my biggest advice.
Let me proceed to another very general concept of this Medicare system. In the Western world, it's quite common having this health insurance for patients to get treatment anytime necessary. Ethiopian government recently has launched this national health insurance system. Can you just tell me the experience of the US or other Western world to inculcate it into Ethiopian case though? And what is its merit, having health insurance, and what is its advantage as well?
Like I said earlier on, the biggest enemy of any country is disease. If you can't control the disease, then basically you are not able to deliver the best that you can for your nation. So again, because of the cost of the healthcare, the cost of medication, and new technologies, it is kind of very difficult for an individual, particularly in a developing world where people don't basically have basic stuff even to eat. It becomes very, very, very difficult for them to be able to look after their health. So a universal healthcare system where the population is taken care of by the country becomes very, very important. The concept came up, I think, in Europe, in mid 1990s, during the Second World War, when the British, for instance, introduced their system of national health system, where everybody gets treatment, proper treatment. It doesn't matter whether you're wealthy, you are poor, everybody gets the same kind of treatment. And I think having worked in Britain, after leaving Kenya, I thought that was an excellent system because you are guaranteed healthcare. The only problem was if it is not an emergency, you may have to wait for a year or something like this to fix your problem, simply because there's not a lot of resources to take care of everything the way people want. Germany probably has got one of the best systems because it has got multiple systems put together to give, again, universal health care. Here in the United States, it's a bit different in the sense that we have private healthcare system, insurance system, that it generally tends to be more expensive and afforded by the wealthy people. And then the healthcare, the government's healthcare system, Medicare, for instance, takes care of people older than 65 years of age, or people who have got disabilities. And then Medicaid, which is for younger people who basically have got low income. But the quality of the services that you get depends on which system you have. And the American system is generally more expensive than the European systems, while in fact the European system to be more efficient. So I don't know how the Ethiopian government system is working, but something that is universal, that take care about the cost while at the same time ensuring everybody getting a healthcare system, that is very, very important.
Okay. Most African medical professionals go to the Europe and the US for obvious reasons. It's one way or another. It's a brand drain, and mostly these professionals couldn't serve the community, the society who taught them back those days.
Well, I think, first of all, I don't think it is accurate to say most doctors go abroad to Europe, America, or wherever. I think majority of doctors stay in their country to give services. Those who live for different reasons. There are some who go out to specialize in certain areas which is not available in their country, and they feel comfortable wherever they go, and they find they are more productive and they are comfortable, so they stay. Others literally run away simply because of risks to themselves, whether it is security to themselves in terms of physical security or financial security. Imagine being a doctor in Khartoum today, or for that matter, in Mekelle during the war. Those are some of the factors that make people run away. I think quite a number of doctors who go abroad go to learn and get expertise in certain field with intentions of going back and giving it to their communities. And I think even for those who are staying out, if the circumstances are right for them, that would be most likely their intentions. If you take my case, if I was able to kind of develop this technology in Ethiopia or Kenya, I wouldn't have gotten out. Once I have got it and made this thing work, I'm trying to go back, and because of the lack of the resources, I wasn't able to do what I wanted, in time. But then, what are the damages as far as the country is concerned? It's very expensive to train a doctor. So the nation puts a lot of resources in developing in educating and training the doctor, and then the doctor leaves the country and goes away. So in that respect, the nation is losing. Patients are not getting the services they deserve simply because now there are less doctors available. Okay, and then those who can afford have got the money to do so, travel abroad to go and get treatment in Asia or Europe or America. So in many ways, the country is losing. What can the governments do or the nation do to make sure that the investment in the doctors are paying and serving the nation? And the first thing is really making sure that to appreciate that it takes a lot for the doctor to get training and to go through all that. And we have to respect that and make sure that they are comfortable in delivering the services to their patients and also looking after their own families. And security becomes very, very important. And in that regard, it's not just the government. The nation has got to stand up and stand together and work for positive development in their countries rather than fighting each other and stuff like that.
Dr. Said Osman, finally, if you have any left out remark, the floor is yours before leaving.
Yeah, as I was saying, living, for instance, in a place like this one and commenting and making judgments on what's going in Africa or Ethiopia, in our case, is not fair, and most likely you're not making the right judgment. You know, but like I said, a government is people's servant. People have got to do the right thing and do their part to make sure that the government can function. Ethiopia, all my life, as far as I know, is creating problem for itself by people turning against each other. All right? At one point, whether you are Muslim or you are Christian or just a scientist, at one point there were probably less than 10 people on the face of the entire earth. So they grew, they multiplied, and filled the whole planet. So we all have same kind of background. And if Ethiopia was where the first human being walked on earth, people can basically relate to Ethiopia. So if we don't work together and build together, we are destroying our own chances. You may feel that you're winning today, but if you are doing it at the expense of somebody else, that person will come back and hit you sometime in the future. So instead of winning together, you are destroying each other. Once that problem is understood and solved, Ethiopia can fix any problem.
Okay.
And that's my belief.
Okay, Dr. Said Osman, thank you for your expertise and thank you for your very valuable time to give us this insight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, dear viewers, this brings you the end of our edition for today. See you next time with another edition. Bye-bye, take care.